All right. Welcome, everybody, to another RealEstateInvestor.com huddle. Super excited about this call. This is a guy that probably you have not heard of, and he's sold over $250 million of real estate. He's started and founded 12 different businesses. And we're going to be talking today with this individual really around growth and scale in your business. A lot of us come in as entrepreneurs, but we get stuck. And I call it the most important real estate in this entire business is the 6 inches between our ears, and it's mindset. So I'm going to talk to an absolute expert and pick his brain around how to really grow a long-term, sustainable, scalable business in real estate, whether it's single family, whether it's apartments. How do you do it? And we'll pick the brain of a guy that has lived it, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So Greg Dickerson, welcome to the show.
Gary, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's just get right to it. I'd love to hear your background. You've been doing real estate, you said the early 2000s, which is it's not a long time, right?
Yeah.
You think of 20 years, but what you've done is incredible. So I'd love to hear a little backstory and then really pick your brain on what are the keys to success. That I know that you actually have mentors, but your mentors are billionaires, right?
Yep, a number of them, yeah.
So
and,
yeah,
household names that people would recognize. But so long story short, I graduated high school in 1985. I went right in the Navy, right out of high school, did my 4 years. And got out, and then I worked a few jobs, restaurants and construction. It's the only two things I've ever done in my life. And learned a ton about business and leadership through the restaurant industry that I was able to apply to the construction industry. And in 1997, I started my first real company, and I was just a little handyman remodeling company. Did $250,000 my first year in sales. 7 years later, we were doing $30 million. We were one of the largest builder developers in our area. And then everything grew from there. So I started in the business as a remodeling guy in 97. And then I didn't really start investing into real estate until probably 2000, 2001. And my first deal was a little lot flip that I made. I split it with a friend of mine, made $15,000 each. He was a realtor. He came to me and said, "Hey, we can buy this lot. You put up the money. I've got somebody that'll buy it from us after we take it down, and I'll take care of all that. We'll make probably 30 grand. We'll split the profit." And I said, "Sure." So we did that deal, and I made 15 grand for just putting up the money. I think it was a $100,000 lot. We sold it for 130. He did everything else. I was like, "Man, you can do this?" I had no idea. And I was just building and remodeling and doing that. And then I started building spec houses. Then I started getting into commercial development, land development, different things, and just kind of grew and scaled from there into that $250 million. That's actually what I bought, developed, and sold personally with my own funds, my own self. I've done, another hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate deals and transactions above and beyond that. But that's my own personal, what I've done with my own stuff, without any investors, without any other backers, just me going to the bank, using the money that I've made from other companies. And then I started those other 12 companies during that 7-year period. So as I was building my main company, I started 12 other companies all during that same period, and just grew and just blew everything up. So that's me in a nutshell.
And today, what does your business look like?
So today, I'm a still serial entrepreneur. I do equity capital, venture capital, and I'm also a developer. But I like fewer, bigger deals. I like heavy value add projects, mostly commercial. I do some infill development, and I still flip houses. My wife likes to play with those. So, we'll flip some houses, and I coach people on that as well. So I've made some videos about that and a couple of houses that we're playing with, and new construction spec houses, but it's all turnkey outsourced. I hire general contractors. I use realtors in the markets I'm not in. I've got a real estate license in 2 states. And I primarily stay in the Southeast region from North Carolina up into the DC area. But what I really like to do is I like to take old buildings, old structures, and repurpose them and make them new. To me, that's a lot of fun. I enjoy ground up, but I enjoy really challenging existing buildings and taking those and creating something fresh and new out of them that's just really cool and unique. So that kind of fills me more than anything else other than building companies. I love building companies, growing and scaling companies. Startups are okay, but I really like to take companies that are up and running and really take those and grow them and scale them and help people do that. So I love building people, I love building companies, and I love building buildings.
Yeah, that's really awesome. what would you say to listeners that are looking at what you've done? Because you pretty much started very similar to a lot of us, but you've just taken it to a totally different level. What would you say the 4 or 5 kind of keys to success, being able to grow? And I call it jump the line, right? A lot of people are trying to jump the line. I call it searching, right? They're in this business, they're searching, they're really not doing. They're searching for, hey, what is it? They're learning, then they're doing, but then they jump the line to leading and reinventing themselves and their business. And it's that's where it's like the mushroom cloud. What would you say the keys to the success are?
There's a lot there, so mindset is first and foremost, and mindset is something that you have to develop and can be developed. So it starts there with the getting rid of no and I can't, and, acting like you can't fail, acting like you have no fear, just going big and just getting after it and not thinking that you have any limits within reality, right? I'm not going to go play quarterback for the New England Patriots, but when it comes to business and the reality of business, there's no reason why I can't do something that somebody else before me's done. So it's understanding that you really have no limits. Okay, number one, if you do the work and you educate yourself and pour into yourself. So that's first and foremost, is that mindset of belief and confidence that you can go after big goals and then going after them, taking the action and just doing it. The second thing is developing yourself. So even though I didn't go to college, I am self-educated, and I constantly, to this day, I'm a voracious learner. I'm a seeker of wisdom. In everything, in every situation, I pour into myself constantly. I'm always reading, listening to a podcast, watching videos. I'm one of those guys that back in the day, I had the books on tape. So if I'm out exercising or whatever, I'm listening to a tape. Then it was CDs, and then it was the iPod. And I never have music on my iPod, my iTunes. It's always books. It's always self-development, motivational, business stuff. So I'm constantly, every second that I have, I'm pouring into myself. So you have to develop yourself. And what you have to develop yourself is the mindset of greatness. You have to develop yourself as a leader, motivator, delegator. And you have to develop yourself in a technical, for the technical aspects of what you're doing as well. So you can have great thinking and you can be a great leader, but if you have no technical abilities, you're going to struggle. So you still have to be competent in the technical aspects of the business. You have to know your business, know your numbers. So you have to educate yourself there. But those are really the 3 biggest things that you need in order to achieve great things. And this is what I've learned from the billionaires that I learned from. A couple of them are in the $1 billion level, a couple of them are in the $100 million level, or multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. And then this is what I teach people that I'm getting to the $1 billion, $10 billion level, and the $10 million, $100 million level, 1 million to 10 million level. It's all the same stuff. It's just bigger deals, bigger numbers, and it's a bigger reality as you get there. And the biggest thing that I see that holds people back is limiting themselves in terms of leverage. So wanting to do it all themselves, like property management. A lot of people want to go big commercial, and they'll say, well, I want to in-house property management so I can control it. Or as a builder or a remodeling contractor, well, I want to in-house the labor so I can control it. That's actually a mistake that's going to hold you back. It was a mistake that held me back. Once I switched it and started leveraging others, that's when I was able to really grow and scale. And I've done it ever since. And that's how the big guys do it. So it's those things that, that you have to do as you go along. But it's first and foremost, it's all about, once you've fixed yourself, taking care of yourself, then it's others. It's becoming a leader, delegator, motivator, pouring into others, developing others, finding people, helping them realize, finding great people, helping them realize their God-given talents, and then putting them in a position to thrive and letting them do their job and coaching them to success. So at the end of the day, I'm very good at finding champions and coaching them to success. And that's every great team, every great organization. That's where it is right there.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I have a couple of sayings. This did not come from me, but in our business, we say people before profit. We're very focused on nurturing and growing our people because we know that we're unstoppable. It doesn't really matter what the widget is, right? Real estate, it could be really anything, but it does come down to great people. I love what you just said. This is another guy that I'm in a mastermind with. He said, you have to fix yourself as a CEO. You got to fix yourself before you try to fix your business. Yeah. And I love you reinforcing that. I'm going to just throw something at you. Knowing what you know, if you lost everything and had to start with no team, no money, no people, and you were doing it all again, what would you do? Like, what would your next 12 months look like if you were starting completely from scratch?
You just mean in general, or you mean like from a business standpoint?
From a business standpoint, if you lost everything, everything's got wiped fresh, and you were starting over. The reason I say that is a lot of people that are on this call may not have the resources that you have, and so they get very stuck on having to do everything themselves, right? And trying to, make money out of thin air, and they're doing $5 an hour work and realizing, hey, that's not a best practice, that doesn't scale, and they go nowhere. So I'm asking you the question, like, what would you do knowing what knowing your history and what the keys are to success?
Well, I start every day that way. Like, I'm starting from scratch with nothing. And first it takes, number one, you got to pour into yourself. So you have to develop a skill that has value to others. So whether that's real estate, whether that's a business, or, whatever that is, you've got to, number one, have a skill set. You have to have knowledge that is valuable to others. So, and I've been through that, by the way. So 2009, I lost all my net worth overnight, just like a lot of people did. So I had to reinvent, and I had to start over. And, the construction business I had became worthless because there was no work in the market that I was in. So I was one of the largest builders, just like everybody else. We shut down. It wasn't a bankruptcy or anything like that, but it was net worth, and it was, liquidity. I had some money in the bank, but I had to reinvent and start over. So that's the first thing. Number one, you've got to find something that's valuable to others. So if you're in the real estate game, one of the easiest ways to start is by wholesaling. It doesn't require cash. It doesn't require, you don't have to spend any money. You can go driving for dollars. You can talk to people. You can go to networking meetings, events, and I don't mean just real estate networking meetings. I go anywhere and just let people know what you do. Hey, I'm looking for, real estate. I buy, all kinds of properties, land, commercial, residential, whatever it is. I'm looking for property, and just make sure people know what you're doing or what it is you're trying to do. And if you're working a full-time job, you can do this after hours. You can look in Craigslist. You can look on Zillow. You can go to for sale by owners. You can do driving for dollars, and you can look them up. There's free apps like True People where you can look up and find somebody's phone number for free and call them up. And you just call them up and just say, hey, this is Greg. I was driving by your house. I was wondering if you'd be interested in selling. I'm an investor. I buy houses, fix them up, and sell them just like they do on HGTV. And would love to, just interested if you were looking to sell your house. And then you just let them talk, and you go through the whole process. It's about relationships. You get to know them. But anyways, if I had to start over, it would be in real estate, it would be wholesaling. That's the easiest thing to do. In business, the easiest thing to do right now in business, anybody can go out and make $100,000 a year right now with no money out of the gate by doing some sort of a service business that other people don't want to do, whether it's painting, whether it's cutting grass, whether it's walking dogs. You have Uber now, you have, Grubhub. So there's a lot of things that you can do to go out and make extra money that you can ultimately reinvest in something else and grow and scale it. So the barrier to entry to start your own business is very low right now, where it used to be you had to set up and get a business license and do all these different things. Like when I started out, I had to go register a corporation, I had to get a business license, I had to get contractors licenses, you have to get real estate licenses. Right now you can literally go out and knock on doors, which is how I started. Literally, as an adult, when I started my company, knocking on doors. Hey, I do remodeling, painting, handyman stuff. What do you need done? You have Craigslist now. You have all these gig sites now where you can do just handyman work. If you're an expert in a field, you can get paid to do consulting. You can run errands for people. There's just all kinds of things you can do now in this new gig economy that wasn't there when I was coming up. So if I had to start all over again, I would find something that I could do that's of value to others. And I would do as much of it as I can with every minute that I can, and build cash, and then grow and scale that business.
Yeah, that's great. It's incredibly, incredibly rich. One word that just came out for me it's taking action. It's the tenacity. I also, one thing that we haven't really talked about, but the vision of, where you're heading. I would imagine that everything that you do is having a vision with some clarity of like where I'm going versus just starting to run. Would you agree with that statement? Yeah.
You have to have vision. Where there is no vision, the people will perish, right? So you have to begin with the end in mind. So if you're starting over and your goal is, man, I have to make $10,000 a month, then that's your vision. You've got to put that down on paper. And if I can paint houses and I can make, $1,000 per job, I need 10 of those jobs a month. So I need to knock on 100 doors to get 10 jobs that are going to pay me $1,000 to make $10,000 a month. So it's literally that simple. but yet it's that powerful that if you have that vision of what it is you want to do, and there's this painting company. So literally when I say vision and I say painting company, I literally see myself at the door knocking, talking to Mr. Jones about painting his house. And then I see myself there with the brush painting the house in the truck with Greg on the side of it, call for painting. I mean, so that's what it takes to visualize a company. And it can be that simple. I need to make $10,000 this month. How am I going to do it? You visualize that. But, you know, you can sit in your chair all day long and visualize, you know, like there's that whole manifest your destiny, right? And The Secret. Well, even the guys that did The Secret will tell you, look, the secret to The Secret is once you visualize this, you have to actually go out in the world and knock on doors and make it happen. And I say knock on doors a lot because I don't care what industry you're in, you have to knock on doors. You have to talk to people, call them, email them, whatever. You have to connect with people to create opportunity. So you take that vision and then you believe in that vision and then you put the action behind it. That's how success proceeds. A vision, faith in it, the means to implement it. And it doesn't take any money. It takes time, energy, and effort.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Let me just kind of digress. I had a couple of questions here. One is, what was your biggest struggle or biggest obstacle in your career on the real estate side?
Starting out, I didn't know what I didn't know. So for me, again, I didn't come from any kind of a background. Nobody in my family were entrepreneurs. Nobody were real estate investors. Nobody was doing anything I was doing in my world. I was always the most successful of generally the people that I hung around. I had the most ambition. So I had to learn it the hard way. So for me, the biggest challenges were I had no money, had no credit. So I had to the banks would not loan me any money. That's much easier today. I just didn't know how to get it, didn't know how to go about it. So I had to finance vehicles to grow and scale companies. I had to use credit cards. Then I had to use an equity line on my house. So the way I got started, I didn't know you could go to somebody to back you in a business that would loan you private money. I didn't even know what that was. So not knowing what I didn't know, because I didn't have any mentors teaching me, and all the information that's out there today, it wasn't out there back in 1997. You couldn't just go on the internet and Google how to start a business and see all these things come up. I mean, Score, I don't even think was around back then, or if it was, I didn't know about it. So it was just, learning those things, not knowing what I didn't know, and having to learn everything the hard way. We didn't have the computers, didn't have the technology. But once I broke through that and started doing things, what's really interesting is the things that seemed difficult, once you did them, didn't seem that difficult. And that's what's really cool is that, man, I thought, it's going to be really hard to get to the $1 million level. Once you get there, you're like, wow, that wasn't that hard. It's going to be really hard to get to the $10 million level. Well, once you get there, that wasn't that hard. Man, it's really going to be hard to get to the $100 million level. Well, once you get there, you're like, dang, it really wasn't that hard. It was just an awareness of what's possible. So now ultimately I'm working towards the $1 billion level. And that's what the guys that are there before me, when I look at what they've done, the only difference is they knew more than I did and started earlier. That's the only difference. It's knowledge, and it's not knowing what you don't know that really limits where you can ultimately go and where you can be if you're not afraid to take the steps and take the action.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You're a big one in leveraging people, outsourcing, and then leadership. You want to share? I know that when you and I were just chatting before this call, because I know that those were the four things you said. I'm really, really good at scale and leverage and outsource. Let's talk a little bit about some of those concepts and how important they are to what we do as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so it all starts with leadership, right? So we are all leaders, and you have to leverage the talents and the time of others in order to grow any type of an organization, no matter what it is. You just can't grow and scale without leveraging others' time, energy, and abilities. And, I have a saying, like a lot of people say, work on your business, not in your business. My philosophy is you have to work on the people in your business so they can work on the business for you. So you have to work on yourself first and foremost, and then you have to work on and develop the people within your organization. And then more importantly than that, you got to let them do their job. So the last thing you want to do is bring on a Tom Brady and then hold him back, right? You bring on a Tom Brady and you say, go, you throw the ball, do what you do. And you have to put aces in places. So you got to find the right people, you got to put them in the right role, and you got to get out of their way and let them do their job. So many entrepreneurs get threatened by their employees. They let their ego get in the way of somebody who's smarter and better, when you should be looking for the best, smartest people you can find. So the way I grew all of my businesses so quickly and so successfully was I went and looked at other organizations that were where I wanted to be, and I hired their top people to come work for me. and build this new company. So they knew absolutely way more than I did. And what I did in the interview was I told them, you know 10 times more than me, Gary. I want you to come join me and help me build this company. I don't know what you know. I want to know, I'm a seeker of wisdom. I want you to come teach me how to do this. But what I'm going to do in exchange is I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to grow your mindset, and I'm going to let you run this company. I'm going to get out of your way and let you roll. So, that's very exciting for people and very enticing for people. So it's number one, understanding you have to work on the people in your business. You got to find the right people to begin with, put them in the right place and let them do their thing. And then the other thing is leadership. So leadership is I always flip it upside down. So you always have this pyramid, right? The CEO's at the top, everybody else is down at the bottom underneath that CEO. I've always flipped it upside down. And the CEO is at the bottom of that organization. As the leader in any organization, it's your job. You're the servant. It's your job to give that organization everything it needs to be successful: tools, training, systems, and support. But more importantly, clear direction and no uncertain terms, exactly what's expected and when. Then you have to measure that performance and hold it accountable to the goal and the standard that you've set at every level. So it's that level of accountability, but that clear direction. So when you bring people into the organization, they need to know exactly what's expected of them and when. Then you have to measure that performance and hold it accountable to the goal that was set. So as that leader, once you realize, wow, my job is to give everybody what they need to be successful. It's my job to make sure that I'm serving them. Starts with yourself. You have to build yourself first to even know what it is that you need to give them for them to be successful. And then you have to set them up for success on a regular basis and then empower them to do the same thing within their departments of that organization. So everything kind of grows out from there. So it's a bottom-up leadership, not top-down.
Yeah, and for all of you out there, I can tell you that from all the years of me doing it, I've seen the success pattern of people that are super, super successful. They do exactly the same, right? I would imagine that you did not learn that on your own. That was probably from a mentor, because some of the best leaders, I come out of Silicon Valley originally. It is a servant leader of how do you serve your people. And it's like, if you've got a garden and you want beautiful flowers or you want a beautiful fruit to grow, you're not going to just throw seeds in the dirt and walk away. You're going to be watering and working that soil. And it takes work, right? And I love the bottom-up approach, because I do the same thing. I get so many people that I see that are entrepreneurs. They get stuck in this scarcity mentality of like, oh, I don't want to hire somebody because they're going to be my competitor. It's like, no. Most people, if you actually, the only reason that they would want to leave is if really you're kind of an idiot. I hate to put it that way. It's like people want community and they love leadership. And if you can come in and love on your people and serve them, our job as leaders is to remove obstacles and allow people to foster and be best at what they're good at. But at the same time, hold them accountable, set clear expectations of what we want, and then allow them to go do their job. One of the things that I always share with people is, the way that I look at my business, I know you probably do the same, which is I'm not hiring really employees. I'm really hiring profit sharing partners, because really what I want them to be able to do is learn and grow and ultimately take over that business, right? In order for me to grow and any of us that are real estate entrepreneurs, let's say you're working a wholesaling business in Kansas City. How awesome would it be to have a team that's doing all the work, including somebody that can take over our role in that market, right? You're making a percentage of profit, that's leverage, right? Let's say you make 30% net, make $1 million, you're coming out with say 300,000, and that allows you to go into the next market. So you've got a group of people that are highly accountable. They love what they do. You're not creating competitors. You're actually creating partners. So that's what we do as entrepreneurs. So I just love what you said, Greg. That was just awesome.
Yeah, and you want to compensate them well so it doesn't make sense for them to go elsewhere if it's somebody that you want to keep around. And like you said, share the wealth. So everybody that I ever hire, we have a employment process that we go through, and there's a lot of different things for the different roles. But the bottom line of what I tell everybody is, in order to sustain your salary, here's the revenue the company has to generate. So you are a revenue center. You have to generate a certain amount just to cover your existence. And then beyond that, there's profit. And that's where you can participate and we can share in that. So it's a responsibility on the individual to generate for the company. And the other thing I tell them is, if you're ever not satisfied, we have regular meetings and regular, updates, so people always know where they stand. There's no guesswork. I'm very consistent. So as a leader, you have to be very consistent. You have to reward people, let them know where they stand. Again, it's constant, direction in terms of what you expect from people. So they should never be guessing where they stand in your organization. So if somebody ever feels like they're underappreciated or underpaid, you should know that before that happens. And what I always tell everybody is, you need to go the extra mile first. So if you want to earn more in a company, you need to be worth more to that company so that you can be paid more. So I make sure people knew that. And I always told them, look, if there's at any time you're ever upset, not upset, but if you ever feel like you're not doing enough or you're not achieving what you want to achieve or you're not happy here, let's talk about it. Let's figure this out, because this may or may not be the long-term solution. And I pour into people so that no matter what, they're better off wherever they go. So most people that ever worked for me and left either went on to their own business or they doubled and tripled what my company was able to offer them. So they went to a bigger organization that can offer them even more upside. What I tell people is absolutely do not leave here to take a lateral move or to step down. If you're going to leave here, you got to let me know so I can help you move up. I can help you get promoted. That's a huge thing for a leader. That's freedom. Letting your employees know, hey, you can leave anytime. You don't have to stay here. I hope you do. I want to be with you. But if you are going to move on, let's make sure you're moving on to a better situation. And let's make sure it's either your own business or that you're going to an organization that you can grow and scale further than what we can offer you here. And that frees people up like you wouldn't believe. When you have that kind of an open, honest communication with people that you're free to go anytime you want. I don't own you. Nobody owns you. We want the best out of you while you're here. And the way to get the best out of somebody is for them to know they're free and that they can make decisions, they can make mistakes, and that they can grow with the organization or outside of the organization.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. This is awesome. I'm gonna be bringing you on to our internal REI Vault member group, and allow some of them to pick your brain a bit.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
This is really great stuff, and I'm just realizing that I should be doing a lot more interviews like this, because this type of stuff, it's real estate is as King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun, right? It's like find something that works. Find somebody that's actually doing it and then replicate their model. This is not a business to reinvent, but the part that I see so many entrepreneurs get stuck is exactly this. It's basically, hey, you got to invest in people. It's mindset, having vision, having clarity, setting expectations. It's awesome. If you were, and I know you coach entrepreneurs on this, but if somebody's trying to figure out who do I hire first, and let's say it's a real estate wholesaling business, and they're looking to start leveraging people, how would you tell them to go about looking at, do they hire sales acquisition manager? Do they hire a COO, integrator, transaction coordinator, admin? What would be your process on that?
So you always want to look at your weaknesses. Number one, in an organization, you want to hire your weaknesses, play to your strengths. Don't try to develop your weaknesses. Don't try to develop anybody else's weaknesses. You fill those in with other people with those strengths. So you have to look at that first and foremost. The other thing you have to look at is, what am I doing over and over and over that's taking up so much time that I could easily put off on somebody else? And usually with most wholesalers, that's going to be the contract administration following that transaction process. So what I tell most people in the wholesale world and the flipping business is, you need an office manager / administrative assistant / executive assistant / transaction coordinator / marketing / you need somebody who can wear a bunch of hats, that's willing to come on with you and help you grow that business, take on whatever they can take on, and take all the administrative load off you. Most great wholesalers are great salespeople. Great salespeople are not good administrators. So that's usually the highest and best use of that first hire, is to take everything off your plate administratively so you can focus on getting deals done. And beyond that, once you've got that administrator in place, then it's usually going to be an acquisition person that can also be the analyst, that can also be the dispositions. So you can absolutely have, if your systems are set up correctly, which I teach everybody, get your buyers first. All right, make sure you've got a robust list of qualified, serious buyers so that you've got a clearinghouse, right? Think about Amazon without any customers. Okay, they can have the cheapest products in the world, but if they don't have that customer base, they've got nothing. What are all these social media companies doing nowadays? They're going out and they're spending money building a list and acquiring customers so that then they've got somebody to advertise and sell to. So as a wholesaler, the value, it's not in the deal, it's in that list. You need a big list of buyers, and you need different kind of buyers, buy and hold, subject to, like Chris Prefontaine, people that do the lease option stuff. You need buyers for different types of product. You need real estate agents, right? So that if it's a retail deal, you can funnel it to them and get a marketing fee. Or if you have a license, a referral fee. So you want a nice, robust buyers list so that you know when you're standing in front of that seller, that deal's sold. You know it's sold, whether it's a whatever. You can help them get that property sold. So there's ways to leverage that. So buyers list, then that acquisitions person can now also be a disposition. Because if you got a big buyers list, once they've negotiated a deal with the seller and they know that deal inside and out, then all they got to do is just put it out to the buyers and it's done. The transaction office manager, administrator, transaction court, they can take it from there. So you can really scale a company with 2 people, yourself and 2 other people, very quickly, very fast by doing it that way. And then it just adds the layers from there as each person gets maxed out. And depending on your organization and how you're operating and what it is that you're doing, wholesaling versus flipping, it kind of grows and scales from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. One call out for that really stood out of this for me was playing to your strengths. So important to know our strengths and play to our own strengths, and also for the people that we hire. That was the big breakthrough for me. I've always been a good leader, but also struggling as an entrepreneur on the management side, and it was stuck. This is years ago where I got stuck, managing and then doing the work, and working 80, 90 hours a week. And I had one of my coaches came and said, Gary, there's 2 exercises to do. One is, it's your genius zone of really figuring out and spending some time analyzing, where is my genius zone? Where do I draw energy, right? What am I really good at? I love sales. So the operation stuff and like the rehabbing and property management, I am really good. Put me in front of the seller. It's why I built RealEstateInvestor.com. And the whole engine, right, was if I could get in front of the seller and didn't have to do all of the crazy amount of work and dealing with rejection and, people like yelling and screaming. But if you put me in front of the seller, I'm fantastic, right? I'm really good at the transaction. Once I'm done with the transaction, I'm out. I can't even change a light bulb. So playing to your strengths is huge. There was another exercise, and I'll share this with everybody, but I was taking a piece of paper and putting, what am I good at and what am I not good at? Yep. What do I like to do and what do I not like to do? And then take my day for the entire week. Where am I spending all my time? And it was amazing. When I did that, I found out that I'm actually spending a lot of time in the stuff I don't like to do. And most likely I'm not even that uniquely competent at. And it was like, okay, if I could actually, that's how I built the list to pass over to an admin, right? Because you bring a really good office administrator, they love to do that, right? Their whole job, I basically came in and I said, I'm not even good at training you of what all the processes. I need you to make me look good so I can be in front of sellers and then you take everything off. And there's people that love to do that if you find the right person.
There is, and they'll help you build those systems. So that's what I tell people too. So when you get that administrator, whatever you're telling them to do, have them document, record a video, get your sheets together, make your list. So now as you grow the organization, those systems are created for each of the positions. And then back to the leverage, and outsourcing, a company like yours, I've sent, I don't know how many people to you, because if you're a sole operator, you take a huge load off of somebody. Somebody could easily scale to the 7 and 8 figure level with your organization because you do what you do all day, every day. So as a leader, delegator, motivator, I want to find the best people doing what they do the best. So when you have an organization like yours that handles everything from a marketing to a lead qualification and KPI documentation standpoint, man, why would I even want to mess with that when I'm in the initial stages? I can just outsource it to you, let you handle it, help you get better at what you do. So my job as a leader is to even help you. You're a subcontractor. So in my business, I worked with my subcontractors to help them become more efficient. So I would coach them in their businesses to help them become more efficient so they can make more money, which ultimately is going to help me make more money, just like in your organization. The more efficient you make your people, the better they are, the more you develop and coach them up, the better the organization as a whole is going to do. So my goal has always been, how can I help everybody in my organization make as much money as they possibly can as efficiently as they possibly can. And a lot of times that requires outsourcing and looking at some of these tasks that even at some point your administrator, once they get bogged down to a point, it's like, okay, same thing with them. What is it that you do over and over and over that we can outsource, that somebody else would be better off doing, so you can focus on the high level stuff that's bringing in the dollars? So you look at that at every level of your organization. That's what the billionaires do. That's what the $100 million guys do. And that's what the $10 million people do when they came from $1 million.
Yeah. Amazing. This is incredibly rich. I'm so thankful, Greg. We could do this. I almost had to reschedule this call this morning. And so, gosh, this is awesome. I know our listeners are just eating this up because it's so rich. I'm going to just hit you on a couple of quick questions before we wrap up here. And what's your favorite entrepreneurial books, do you think, over the years that have meant the most to you?
I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was one of the first books I read. And a lot of people get real estate out of that book. They read it and they read it as a real estate investing book. I didn't. What I got was exactly everything I just said. I got business and leadership. Build businesses that generate cash flow to invest in other assets. And you can't do that unless you leverage other people, their time, their talents, their abilities, and develop those people and coach them. So, Robert's rich dad had all these different businesses. He didn't run them all. He had people in each of those businesses. So beyond the layers of that book, you had to have a great leader behind these other leaders in these organizations. So that was one of them. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. So I go back to the old ones, right? Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale. And then fast forward today, there's so many great books today out by, so many great leaders that are out there. But those were the core of my big thinking, holy cow philosophies, and then the 1 Minute Manager. So there's several books in the 1 Minute Manager series that goes back to everything we just talking about leadership and servant leadership and clear direction, setting goals and all that. So there's 3 books in the series: the 1 Minute Manager, putting the 1 Minute Manager to work, and leadership in the 1 Minute Manager. So everybody listening should read those books in that order. Follow that system in your business, and that's how you grow and scale a business. And I mean, like you said, there's nothing new under the sun. Every management leadership book you read, you can tie it all back to that in terms of management. Then there was another one that was very instrumental and pivotal in my career called Managing by Harold Janine. So Harold Janine was the CEO of ITT, the first big multi-conglomerate of its time back in the day. And he wrote a book called Managing, and it's a lot of the philosophies that I have. Unbelievable book. So the 1 Minute Manager and Managing by Harold Janine, in terms of leadership and management, those are the best books out there.
No, that's awesome. You're the importance of mentoring and coaching, of having a coach.
So mentoring and coaching in this day and age is so much different. So the mentors that I had over the years were people that I was working with and doing deals with. Now you can find and hire people like me and you to coach and mentor and do that. So, I mean, it's just huge. You don't know what you don't know. If I would have had somebody like me when I started out, I would be a billionaire by now. I had to learn it the long way, the hard way, because I didn't have those mentors. Even though I had the books and I was able to read and study, I still didn't have people over me teaching me how to apply it. So there's just so much that a coach and a mentor can do for you to fast track your success. I'll have conversations with people that, one conversation, just one, changes their entire life. And is worth hundreds of thousands to tens of millions of dollars. Just one idea, one conversation. So, and a book can do that for you too. But I've had mentors my entire career, and I would not be able to have done anything else. And I'll tell you the biggest thing that people don't realize about a coach and a mentor that's more important than anything else, and this is what I do for my people, is that they believe for you until you can believe for yourself. So if I tell you, Gary, you can, I don't know what your business is doing, right? What is your business doing right now?
In terms of
revenue,
what?
Are you 10 million, 100 million?
We're right at the $10 million mark.
So, if I tell you, you could easily in the next 2 to 3 years be at $100 million, that might be hard for you to really believe, right? Like really, truly believe. You'd probably say, yeah. But if I said, I can take you in the next 2 years and turn you into a $100 million company, I'm going to believe that for you. So you don't have to. You're just going to take my word for it. And then once we start rolling, eventually you're going to believe for yourself. Or maybe it's 500, but whatever's unbelievable for you right now, I come in, a mentor comes in, and they believe for you until you get to the point to where you start believing for yourself. That's what's really cool. For me, with the people that I've worked with my entire career, and I've done it in the businesses that I've been involved in, and I do it now with people in other different businesses. It's when that light bulb of belief goes off, when people get it and they're like, wow, I can do this. That is what's really cool.
Yeah. It's, I'll tell you, I share this a lot. I have 4 coaches right now. I'm about ready to get a 5th, and one of them and they're all CEO coaches. And then I have a personal trainer. What I find is, hey, if I'm going to learn a discipline, or if I need something, I'm going to go and find somebody to coach me and hold me accountable. And one, you just said there's some people that will give you one statement that is a life changer. And I've got a coach. He's a CEO coach. His name's Willie Hooks. He actually was senior vice president back in the day of Silicon Graphics. He ran all North American sales and business development. Now retired, but I was struggling with time, and I came over to his house and said, Willie, I'm just, as a CEO, like, I'm running like crazy. I feel like I'm late. And he just said, Gary, all of us have one thing in common. We all have the same 24-hour day. How does Jack Welch from General Electric, how did he run the business that he had, or Steve Jobs, or Warren Buffett? Because we all have the same 24-hour day. And he basically said, it's how you use that time. And those little words, he gave me a key of wake up earlier, push out my day later, and spend 3 hours as a CEO moving the marker in my business. And so I did that, and I've been doing that for probably 6 years. It changed my life. It changed my business. It changed my family. I got my life back. So I have a 5-10-3 rule now. I wake up at 5. I don't start my day until 10. That gives me 5 hours. I come up with what is my one thing, and that gives me a time to journal and read scripture and work out, make coffee, and clean the kitchen for my wife. Happy wife, happy home, right?
Yeah, happy wife, happy life.
And that came from a coach. That actually came from a coach. Another one had to do with, I was on my phone, and he actually literally took my phone away and said, and I haven't had my sound on my phone in probably 8 years, and I keep it face down because it's not a device that's needed real time as a CEO. So awesome. Hey, for people to connect with you, Greg, I know that you coach one-on-one for some entrepreneurs going to the next level, to the $1 billion mark. You're right to the, how do you go to the,
it's if you want to go 1 to 5 to 10 to 100, whatever, but yeah, I've got them at different levels, but yeah, I have a few that I'm working on right now that are targeting $1 billion, and I've got one that's targeting 10 billion.
So where can people find out more about you and connect with you? Are you on Facebook and
Facebook, LinkedIn, GregDickerson.com. So my website has all that. I've got a YouTube channel and podcast where I put out short little nuggets of wisdom and videos every day. So there's a lot of content there on different subjects, anything from leadership to mindset to real estate to business, those types of things. I'm on the board for a couple of companies. So I'm seeing a lot of things and what's working out there and what's not. So GregDickerson.com, all my contact info is on there. And I'm happy to, help if somebody wants to reach out, and I'm going to be developing some programs. A lot of people have been asking me for programs, especially on real estate development, commercial real estate, and business. There's not a lot out there. How do you buy a company? How do you grow and scale a company? There's nothing out there that you can buy and, follow step by step. And there is a step by step. So as you know, you're going through it right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as soon as you have those available, bring them back to RealEstateInvestor.com, because I'd love to put them in the hands of our people, because this is just incredible. Hey, I really appreciate the time, Greg. This is fantastic. And
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me. And, I know there's a lot there and we can do a lot more. So, hey, you have my info, so reach out and we can do a few more of these.
No, that's awesome. And to all of you RealEstateInvestor.com loyal listeners, I am always looking for feedback. What do you need help with? Where are your stucks? And because I'd like to be able to go find guys like Greg and others out there who are not heard of very often, but are absolutely rich in their expertise in today's market that can actually help you, because we're all one community. And I love being able to, everything that I've learned has come from others like Greg, and I love being able to share it back to such an incredible group of people. So thank you. God bless. And look forward to the next show.